Hello, welcome everybody to our Tuesday night class sponsored by the Portland Kollel and Seaside Chevra. We are delighted to have Rabbi Viders again from Muncie, New York, who has graciously volunteered to give us an exciting share tonight. Our expectations are high because
Oh no,
this
that was
is
rule number one, was keep expectations low.
we're very excited to hear this year, this class, and we're making the recording for the people who couldn't make it live. We all have this age-old question of how much are we in charge of our life? How much is God in charge of our life? And does it matter um, what our actions are? So, Rabbi, you are going to present to us, and we are so thankful. And then we are going to ask questions. Would you welcome questions during the presentation, or do you want to wait until you're all done?
Well, seeing my mom's on the call, I feel that I have proper backup that we can let questions, roll at any time. Okay, so if anybody has a
Very good.
question, comment, rebuttal, clarification, then by all means, make yourself heard, stand up, and you shall be heard. And that way, it's a collaborative effort. It's a collaborative effort. I'm kind of here for you guys. It's closer to Wednesday morning than it is Tuesday night for me. No, just kidding. But anyway, so it's a thrill to be back. It's actually kind of a first for me. I don't think I was ever invited back anywhere. So like it was kind of like a new one for me. Mostly it's kind of thanks but no thanks, or we'll call you. So this was kind of a new one for me. That's slightly
Well,
kidding on that.
Yashikar.
The other thing which I was interesting, why I kind of like the challenge and opportunity over here, was that I'm not a particularly deep person. And there was a fellow, and he went to his rabbi and he said, "Rabbi, I had a religious experience." So the rabbi said, "What was her name?" Meaning that if you ask most people, um, what's going to bring a person close to God, they'll probably tell you a good l'chaim and a good herring and a good chillant. And that might bring a person a lot closer to God than a deep lecture on, whether we have free will or not. So we want to keep that in mind, and I want to explain why. Um, I heard a interesting idea which I'd never thought about. Now we understand that God revealed himself to the entire Jewish people at Mount Sinai. Okay, so you have all the Jews, men, women, and children, all ages, captive audience, and God reveals himself, and he offers these 10 commandments, or like if you guys who saw Mel Brooks, the 15 10 commandments, right? So, and he's always good to see who gets what jokes. But be that as it may, so the Akeda, who's a classic commentary on the Chumash, says that we would have thought that if God is revealing himself to the entire Jewish people, that the topic on the table would have been something very deep. Like God would have tackled the mysteries of the universe, right? Like why are bad things happening to good people? Right? Like an answer to this lecture. How does God know everything and he's never surprised? And Ken right now could go left or go right or go straight or back up, and he has free will. Right? You guys all agree that you could be doing something else right now. And you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to log on and I'm going to learn Torah, and I'm going to do something for myself and do something for the Jewish people, and I'm going to do something for the Jews in Israel, and I'm going to earn myself some eternity. So you all could be watching the Mariners game, or whatever you guys do in Oregon. I don't know what you guys do, but anyway, you all could be watching the Mariners game, right? So, so we would have thought that it this totally unique opportunity that God is revealing himself to the entire Jewish people, that he would have been unlocking the mysteries of the universe. And yet he goes on to say things which are very straightforward. Don't kill, don't steal, honor your mother and father, meaning that if we didn't know where they were coming from, we might have thought that it was written by some, enlightened society in the time of the, French Revolution or something, or the founding fathers maybe come like it's relatively straightforward. So that was the question, that was the observation that I heard recently. And the theory is like this: is at the end of the day, deep, sophisticated ideas make us feel good and they make us feel intellectual
Yeah.
and we'll enjoy it at the cocktail party. But what really moves us at the end of the day is simple things. Simple things move a person, right? So I'll give an example. If you ever saw, you needed to back out a parking space, right? So you honk the guy behind you and he says, I see you. So you say, yeah, it's not enough to see me. You need to move. It's very simple. It's very simple. It's not like a whole deep kind of discussion over here. And sometimes like kids, like staying up and getting in the bath and getting into bed. Like it doesn't be a whole philosophical discussion. We just have to like get in the bath. We just have to to keep it very simple. So this is the Mesillas Yesharim, the classic, the great work of self-perfection. He tells you at the beginning of his monumental work that I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. Now, we don't really believe him because the book, One Day We'll Learn It, God willing, is packed with interesting ideas into the way a human being works. But the premise is that if a person wants to move, simple things will move a person. There was a woman, she was trying many, many years to quit smoking and tried this and tried that and tried this and tried that. Didn't work. A rabbi of mine bought her a mug with all of her grandchildren on it and with the logo saying, remember, every puff is one day less you see them. That was the end of smoking. So with all of the hypnosis and all of it was a very simple notion that one loves their grandkids and they want to be able to see them as long as possible. Right? So I'll give you an example. For me, Judaism is essentially about gratitude. So if God gave me I'm in a room right now, so I want to appreciate that room. And how do I do that? I put a mezuzah on that room. And God gave me clothing. You see, I have a shirt and everything is like that. So therefore, I'm wearing these tzitzis over here because that's my way of expressing my gratitude to God that he gave me what to wear. And therefore I'm going to eat dinner and I'm going to thank God for the supper. So basically what drives me in my Judaism is basically some notion of gratitude, which you don't have to be particularly deep for that. Like one of my rabbis told me, the reason you put on tefillin in the morning is to thank God you have a head, because if you don't have a head, it's very difficult to put on tefillin. Right, Ken? Yeah. Good luck with that one. So anyway, so the point being over here is that we are going to engage this topic, which is very important. But we shouldn't make our dedication to Judaism and Torah linked to the notion that when I've figured out the balance between free will and God in my life, then I'll be able to move on to the next plateau. Because God didn't make the Torah for the Einsteins and Aristotles of the world. He made it for the Michael and the Arts of the world. Right? He made it for all of us. A 13-year-old boy has everything he needs up here to be able to keep the Torah. Otherwise, we'd say, look, the Torah applies when you get your PhD from Harvard or whatever in comparative religion, and that's the only people who obligate. Otherwise, it's just too hard. It's just too, it's just reserved for Copernicus. So we're not saying that. We're saying every 13-year-old kid is an obligation to keep the Torah. So everything you need to know to be a perfectly functioning Jew who's going to give God a lot of nachas, you have upstairs by age 13. Okay, so far so good. So that's my preface over here. Keep expectations low because I've never been invited back to speak, and I'm not a particularly deep person. And what is going to move us forward is not necessarily this lecture, although it will be fascinating and scintillating, and you'll be hanging on my every word, and you won't be able to sleep tonight. I understand all those things, but what moves us at the end of the day are simple things. So far so good. Jeff, acceptable? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Michael, Ray, okay? I look like a thumbs up, half a thumbs up. I'll take whatever I can get. Okay, fine. So now, let us explain why this is important. Um, I am a firm believer that if there is static on the line, you have to do what you can to get rid of it. Okay, I'll give you an example. There are certain people who like simply can't bring themselves to believe in God as long as there's some fossil that's like 12 billion years old sitting in some slate in Arizona. Like it's too much. It's year 5785, but there's a fossil, and the fossil's a billion years old. So like I'm not bothered by fossils. They can stay. They can stay. Sorry about that. We'll turn that down. The fossils can stay in the slate, and the tyrannosaur, it's fine. It can stay over there, and it really doesn't impact my life at all. So I'm not bothered. But if the fossil is putting static on your bar, then I tell my students we got to do something about that static. We got to figure out how it's going to coexist with our notion that the world is 5,785 years old. Okay, I'll give you another example. You have people who are the Holocaust. So that's a very big question. I'm supposed to believe there's a good God and he wants things for the Jewish people and he wants good things for humanity. So there's this gaping question that is, 65 years old or 85 years old. So now some people are not necessarily bothered, but obviously the event of the Holocaust, but it's not necessarily so much a obstacle for them in their day-to-day living. They understand it's beyond their comprehension. It will always be on their comprehension. No one will be able to put it in proper context. When they get to the next world, they'll sit down with God. They'll ask him a few questions. They'll figure it out. But I'm just saying that if it bothers a person, I feel that one is obligated to roll up their sleeves and figure it out. Okay, and if it doesn't bother you, then okay, you'll move on to not obligated to become an expert in every philosophical issue in Judaism. Okay, but that's a general rule. Certain people are bothered. How can we have a second day yontiv, and how come I have to have separate dishes for meat and milk? And people are bothered by different things. If you're bothered by different things, I think a person's obligated to figure it out. Okay, fine. Now, we need to know also before we dig in over here that at the end of the day, this topic's over our head. Not that we can't talk about it as intellectuals, and we will, and we can't ask good questions and formulate opinions. But at the end of the day, we're mortal and limited. And God is immortal and unlimited. So that's just the reality. That's just the reality of the situation. There is a reality that there could be things above my head that I do not understand. Quantum physics I do not understand, and neuroscience. There are things that I don't understand, and that's okay. We imagine we all go to the pharmacist at one point or other, and we say, okay, we're supposed to take this pill or that pill. We don't sit down with the pharmacist and say, can you explain to me how this works, and what chemicals are playing themselves out, and why do I have to take it on an empty stomach? We say, okay, this pill, and great, and do I get free fills or whatever the case may be? So like, is insurance going to cover it? We don't necessarily have to know the way that it works. Okay, so that's just something that when the Jews got to Mount Sinai, we told God, Na'aseh v'nishma. We're ready to do, and we'll listen later. It's okay. We don't have to necessarily understand everything. Are we allowed to ask? Absolutely. You ever been to a Pesach Seder? Everybody's asking everything. The wicked son, the wise. Everyone's asking everything, and who knows one, and what happened to the cat that ate the dog. Everyone's asking questions. Anyone open up a page of Gemara? You can't go a single page in the Talmud without somebody asking a question on somebody. The whole Judaism is based on questions because we're not afraid to ask. But in our end of the day, we have to say that even if there's an answer that I won't fully understand, that's okay. Got it? So far, so good. So these are our ground rules over here. Now, we're going to base the approach on the following idea. There's a very fundamental verse in the book of Devarim, which you've all heard. And God essentially, speaking through Moshe Rabbeinu, through Moses, says, I'm going to put before you life and death, good and evil. Choose life. B'charta b'chaim. Choose life. So this is one of my favorite verses when I was growing up. Before then, I'll just tell you I find it interesting. Before I became observant, I went to a certain seminar. I wanted to learn more about Judaism. And there was a Rabbi Rieti, maybe you've heard of him, who was teaching at the time. And I said, Rabbi, I said, can I ask you two questions? So one of them was a legal question. How could I be bound to a contract I wasn't a part of? But leave that aside. The second question I asked him is that I already have a philosophy. My philosophy is something called seize the day, carpe diem. We're in this world to capitalize on every moment, live life to the fullest, and make the world a better place. I said, can you show me that in the Torah? And he opened up to this verse and he said, choose life, that God wants you to choose life. So now, we're in this world to be a chooser. Animals do not possess free will. They possess instinct. So when you see the mommy robin is busy bringing the little worm to the baby robin, so God has invested in that robin a maternal instinct to care for her young. So animals can be very intelligent. You ever saw a spider web or an otter build some type of dam? They can be very intelligent, but they never made a moral choice. They have instinct, flight or flight, fight or flight. They have instincts. The goose flies south in the autumn, and the turtles swim to different beaches. So they have a tremendous amount of intelligence, but they never made a moral choice. Now, just to up the ante, neither did the angels. So we understand there are angelic beings that are more soul than body, and they also don't possess free will. So that makes the human being unique in the world as the only creature that possesses the capacity to choose good. So therefore, when you walk past a person, they're asking for some type of tzedakah, you can give him a quarter, you can kick sand in his face, you can ignore him, you can smile at him, you can give him a pep talk. But at that moment, you are possessing the muscles of free will. And you can go into that grocery store and you know there's kosher tuna fish in aisle 8, and you prefer the non-kosher tuna fish in aisle 6, so you also have free will. Okay, and every time you have the opportunity to act honestly or dishonestly, to speak to somebody in a positive way or to speak to somebody in a negative way. So the point being is over here is that we are unique in the planet, in the creation, as being the only ones with the capacity to choose. And if you think about it, life is just one choice after another. So you guys all chose where to go to college. You guys all chose what to do for a living. You guys chose where to live. I guess Seaside is pretty nice. And you guys all chose what you want to be doing at 7:35 on Tuesday night. So life is just one choice after the next. And sometimes we botch it. And we say, you know what? I wish I had made a different choice. I wish I didn't have that 5th shot of tequila, right? I wish I hadn't had, not responded with that one last remark and just let them have the last. I wish I would have gone to sleep a little bit earlier, whatever the case may be. So we're not expected to go through life perfect. Who does that? But at the end of the day, life is just one choice after the next. All right, so far so good. And we're going to get, after the end of 120 years, you're going to get upstairs and they're going to open up the book and they're going to say, Andrew Levy, let's see what choices you made. And they're going to start flipping through the page. And those choices that you make today, yesterday, tomorrow, they're going to be waiting for you for eternity when you leave this world. Now, that could be a scary thought. We have a concept called tshuva. We'll get there, but I'm just pointing out that there's a unique this before we get to the question of what of free will. Not we are uniquely situated that we do have free will. Okay, now so that makes when I was growing up, I used to enjoy these choose your own adventure books. And if you want to get in the UFO, turn to page 47. And if you want to try out for the Seahawks, turn to page 83. Like it was a whole choose your own adventure. Well, life is choose your own adventure. Now, sometimes we feel that life dictated us. So that could be true. I mean, a guy might have wanted to, played first base for the Yankees and it didn't really necessarily work out. So we can't necessarily have a total blank canvas and write our own ticket. But life is really choose your own adventure. We sometimes like to think about what our life would have looked different had we done X, Y, or Z. Had I only decided to, stick it out with that job, had I only decided to stick it out with that relationship, had I only decided to, move to that second career, or what, we live with that. Sometimes it's healthy, most of the times it's not. I'll tell you, I once went to an interesting wedding. Actually, I was there with my mom, and it was a wedding of the daughter of friends of my parents. And it was one of those weddings, you've probably been to them before, where you're kind of thinking like, why did I come to this? They kind of invited me just as a way of good evening, Chaim, just as a way, like kind of a nice gesture. And I easily could have not shown up. But anyway, I decided to show up at this wedding. And the whole time I'm thinking something's going to happen. I'm the only religious guy there besides mom. And, something's going to happen. Someone's going to ask me some life or death question. Someone's going to have some burning, yearning Judaic issue, and I'm going to come to the rescue. And the whole night, this is between you and me, I spent the whole night trying to unwrap the plastic on the dinner they gave me. It was like 82 layers of plastic. You need like a jackhammer to get through the thing. But it'd be this way. The whole night goes by without any fanfare whatsoever. And I'm racking my brain. Why did I schlep down to Manhattan for this thing? And on the way home in the Palisades Parkway, God put in my mind the following thought, which is that you just saw your life had you never become a practicing observant Jew. You just saw what was on a different choose your own adventure, because they're two very nice people, and they'll probably have 2.5 kids and drive a Saab, and he'll be a dermatologist and she'll be a librarian. They were fine people. They weren't felons. They were fine people, but no Shabbos, no Torah learning, no davening, no Tuesday night Seaside Kollel class. And I was watching like, wow, that easily could have been me. So sometimes we have an opportunity to be able to assess the choices that we make in life and to appreciate them. I have a friend of mine is a farmer. And because he's a farmer, his mind can think about deeper ideas. And he says to me, it's amazing the choices we make are going to be waiting for us for eternity. Just all the choices that we make, they're just going to be sitting there in the lockbox forever. Fine. Now, just want to mention one other thing over here, which is the notion of tshuva. Okay, so now let's say you're backing out of you guys have a kosher deli in Oregon?
Not quite. No.
Not quite. Okay, that's my next investment. Michael, we got to talk. We get some good pastrami up there. Okay, we're going to make a fortune. So let's, hypothetically speaking, you got a kosher bakery in Oregon. Okay, we'll call it Young's Kosher Bakery. Okay, and it's Friday afternoon, and you got to get home for Shabbos, and you back out of Young's Kosher Bakery, and you dent the car behind you. So what do you say? Say, oh, I'm really sorry. Now, that dent is going to be there for 1,000 years. You could be sorry until the cows come home. It's not going to make a single difference, that dent in that bumper. Okay? In the concept of tshuva, though, it doesn't work that way. God gave us the most unbelievable gift a person could have, and it goes with free will. We should understand why. That if we make a mistake, God doesn't say game over. He's going to wait maybe a year, maybe 5 years, maybe 50 years, maybe till you're at the edge of the grave. And he's going to wait for a person to say, God, I regret having made that decision. And at that moment, that spiritual bumper will be repaired. It's a fascinating, mind-blowing idea that a person at age, in my case, 25, and other people age 50, age 75, that they are able to rectify all of the wrong choices they made in their entire life. And I don't know how many of your fathers on the line can imagine an estranged child, and he's, made a whole bunch of decisions in his life, and he drove his father batty with him, and his father had no nachas. And one day the kid calls up, says, Tati, I was out at the beach, and I remember when you used to take me out, and we used to watch the waves come in. I want to come back home. So you say, well, before that, we have some talking to do. Nothing doing. You'll say, you're on the next flight. Here's the ticket. I'll meet you for bagels at Young's Kosher Bakery. So we have that capacity with God at any time. You don't have to wait for Yom Kippur for this. You don't have to wait for Rosh Hashanah for this. You don't have to wait until a person, Chas v'Shalom, is terminally ill in the hospital. You can do Tshuva 1043 New York time and say, hey, God, are you available? I'd like to talk to you about some choices that I made. And I'd like to see if you would give me a chance to say I'm sorry. It's like when two people had a fight and they made up. So they said, I'm sorry about that. I said, sorry about what? Kadosh Baruch Hu, God will give you a clean slate if you're a person sincere. That's the beauty of tshuva. Fine. So far, so good. Questions, comments, rebuttal? Fine. Now, the real mystery of this lecture tonight, besides when is it going to be over, is a mission in Pirkei Avos. Okay, ethics of your fathers. You guys probably all have it at home. If not, Mrs. Young can get you. It's free at Young's Bakery with a dozen bagels. Chapter 3. 1 second, please. Mishnah 19. Chapter 3, Mishnah 19. And none other than Rabbi Akiva. Everyone loves Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said, everything is foreseen, yet freedom of choice is given.
Is what?
Freedom of choice is given.
Given.
As a called safui, everything is foreseen, and a reshus nesuna. Okay, so let's say right now, Art decides to surprise us all, and he puts on a Boston Celtics hat. Now, we'd all have a lot of questions, but like God wouldn't be surprised. Now, we'd all be surprised because who knew Art rooted for the Celtics or even had a hat, what motivated him to put on. We'd have a lot of questions for Art, and that would be the end of my lecture because we'd all be asking about Art's Celtics hat. But God would not be surprised. Okay? So we're not the first people on the planet Earth, and even the first good Jews, to reckon with this idea. Rabbi Akiva had a lot on his plate. And he didn't have Zoom. I don't think he knew about Seaside, but you could imagine that Rabbi Akiva was also sitting with 7 or 8 people one night, also trying to figure out how in the world could this possibly be. Okay? And all the great commentaries, the Rambam, Rabbeinu Yonah, the Bartanura, Tiferes Yisrael, all the great commentaries understand that somehow these two concepts can, yes, coexist. Okay? So that's between B'charta B'chaim, choose life, and this particular Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, ethics of the fathers, everything is foreseen and freedom of choice is given. So now, I'll open up the floor to you guys. How in the world could this possibly work? How could these two concepts coexist? Because if God is never surprised, so he knows Jeff's going to raise his hand. Jeff, you raising your hand? Okay, you see that? Let's see, Jeff. What do you have to say, sir?
Well, only that this doesn't answer the question. This answers the question about God being all-knowing. It doesn't answer the question about whether God somehow caused me to raise my hand, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't see a problem. I mean, obviously everybody has a different, maybe perspective or theology, but I don't see an issue with, I don't see a conflict with God being all-knowing and me having free will. I have the conflict for me is God being all-knowing and intervening.
Okay, this is a deep point. Let's who's got a favorite movie out there? Who's got a favorite movie out there? Casablanca. Who goes to Casablanca? Classic. Humphrey Bogart. It's the beginning of a great friend. Beginning of a great relationship. All right, okay, fine. So now, We all know how that's going to end, right? But sometimes, I don't know about you guys, because now they have there's a lot of movies you can listen to whenever you want. But like sometimes you see like a great movie, like, oh, Rocky's on, or The Natural, or whatever movie you love. Like, we know what's going to happen. We know Rocky. We know what's going to happen, right? So don't spoil it for the other person. Sometimes there's a great like who done it. Like don't tell me what happens at the end, or you tape the game. Don't tell me. I don't want to know who won. But like if you saw the movie already, so that's a little bit what Jeff is talking about. We're all knowing because we know how the movie is going to play itself out, right? How does that give the actors in the script, so to speak, the free will to kind of do what they want? We know what's going to play itself out. You're seeing a good rerun, right? Your favorite Seinfeld or whatever the case may be. So the approach that speaks to me is the following: is that we live in a time-space continuum. So right now it's 7:48 in Seaside. Okay, so you guys are all plugged in a certain place in time and plugged in a certain geography. That's the reality. But God is above that. So God's not in there. But when it comes to God, not that we understand this, but there is no past, present, and future. There's no Seaside, and there's no you. He's above all of that. So therefore, so to speak, he can be watching this movie that, for all practical purposes, God has already seen. Right? You see that movie. Don't go into that haunted house, right? We know it's going to be, but we can still, in real time, for us, have our own decision. Whether we're going to, propose to that girl or not, and whether we're going to go to synagogue or not, and whether we're going to, eat kosher or not. So we're living in real time, even though God himself is above all that. So that's a deep concept, but that is the way certain commentaries go. That's the one that speaks the most to me. Others go with a little bit of a different idea, which would be that God knows each of us so well in the deeper recesses of our psychological makeup and our subconscious that he knows ahead of time what it is we're going to do. I don't know if that makes it better, worse. Sometimes a certain, I don't know, I'll give you an example. You're playing basketball with somebody. They always go to their right or whatever the case may be. So you know a person so well, you can anticipate to a certain degree what they can do. There's another theory that's out there. It makes it better. It makes it worse, more confusing, less confusing. I want to add two other ideas, and then we'll open up for questions. That works for you, Ms. Young?
Sure.
Two other ideas, and then we'll open up for whatever dialogue you guys want to have. And one is in this week's parsha, in the Medrash in this week's parsha, and it says that before a child is conceived, they bring the neshama, the soul, so to speak, up to heaven, and they decide, is this person going to be wealthy or not? I guess Bill Gates was on the wealthy side. Is he going to be bright or not? But they don't decide if he's going to be a tzaddik or not. I'm sure we don't know if he's going to be righteous or not. Meaning you probably all know people who are very bright and are not paying their bills. They're just, for some reason, mazel, whatever the case may be, that guy who didn't graduate high school is raking in the money, and the other person's got a PhD, doesn't have two nickels to rub together, right? We know people that with their health, whatever the case may be, but whether a person is going to be righteous or not, that is your choice. And everybody can choose that I want to make a righteous decision. I just want to mention one other idea, and then I will open up, and that's the end of that. There was a famous philosopher who lived in, among other places, England around the time of World War II. His name was Rav Dessler. And he's famous for certain revolutionary ideas. One is a concept that the world is made up of givers and takers. And all of history basically depends on whether you're deciding to be a giver or a taker. Maybe another lecture another time. But he has a special approach to free will, which is the following. Any football fans here? Okay, good. Sorry, Miss Young, I think you're outvoted. I just want to tell you, every game my mom ever went to went into overtime. So like, it's like my mom's like a Segula for like extra innings. Anyway, be that as it may, so I'm just going to paraphrase Rav Dessler. He didn't talk about the line of scrimmage, but I want to talk about the line of scrimmage. The line of scrimmage is where the action's taking place. You got a football field 100 yards long, and if you're on your own 43-yard line, so everything's taking place over there. And if you get sacked and you lose 7 yards, you back up. And if you make 4 yards on a handoff, you move forward. Rav Dessler's point, and the military history works the same way, right? There was a forge ahead of the Northern troops in the Civil War, and they pushed the Battle of Antietam, whatever the case. They took a battlefront. Where was the battlefront on any given day? So Rav Dessler says that free will is no one-size-fit-all cookie-cutter phenomenon. Because one person has a challenge to walk into a store and walk out of that store and not shoplift. And it might never occur to us at all. Every person will have their own challenges. I had one student said to me, "You have no idea the desire I have to eat non-kosher food. You cannot fathom it. You bring me to the best kosher restaurant you can find. Rabbi, you will not get it." I had another fellow. He was working in the city in the summertime. And as you imagine, in Manhattan, not everybody is, especially the women, not always dressed so modestly and appropriately. And the rabbi told the kid, try not to look a second time. Meaning that what? That every person has their own line of scrimmage in Judaism. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter used to say, look, if you could smoke 19 cigarettes on Shabbos instead of 20, you're moving in the right direction. You're moving the ball downfield. Someone once asked my mom, was it a problem to light candles on Friday night and then go out to the movies? What did my mom tell her? At 7:00 p.m., you made the choice to light candles. At that particular moment in time, that's a wonderful choice to make. Whatever it is you do afterwards, it's not an all or nothing proposition. We have free will of everything under the sun, what we eat, what we wear, to make some sarcastic comment, to eat tray food, to give charity, not give charity. There's always something for us to work on. And it's not just actions. Another sefer speaks about our character traits also, whether to blow a gasket and go postal, whether to be calm and cool, calm, collected, right? So we all have that road rage. That maybe it's more of a New York thing. I don't know if they do that in Oregon, but you know, when someone puts the milk back in the fridge and like there's no real milk there, it's just like, so I could go nuts at that point, or I could say, you know what, like Nishka Fairlech, it's not such a big deal. So that is what we want to mention over here. That in the concept is that we are here in this world to choose. We have the opportunity to choose right. We have the opportunity to choose life, and the choices we make are extremely important to God. Just like your own kids, you're wondering, what are they eating? How are they sleeping? Are people being nice today? They're on your mind. You hope they're making the right choices. You hope they're associating with the right type of people. You hope they're making their contribution. And anyway, I just close with one vignette, and then we'll open up to whatever you want. One of my favorite observations, vignettes. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, one of the most refined human beings has probably walked the planet in the last 250 years, was walking past a shoemaker. And it was late at night, and he popped his head and he spoke to the shoemaker. He said, isn't it late? It's not quitting time? And the shoemaker had a candle that was burning there. And he said, as long as the candle still burns, I have what to repair. Now, the shoemaker was talking about shoes. Yisrael Salanter wasn't in the business of shoes. He was in the business of souls. And that became his like mantra for life. As long as the candle still burns, I have what to improve. And that's what we're in this world to do. As long as God's giving us another day on the planet, another hour on the planet, our job is to improve. Our job is not to be shackled by the decisions we made in the past. Our job is to be able to choose life And God willing, we'll all have the courage, the bravery to be able to make those choices that will give God a lot of nachas. So with that in mind, any questions, comments, rebuttal?
Got
I'm
a
done.
question, which
Yes, sir.
may sound a bit cynical and probably is, but what does it matter if we have free will? We're going to do what we're going to do, and whether it's because we choose it or something else is making us do it, we don't know, but we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So how does free will factor into, our existence?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a legitimate question. Any thoughts on that? I used to when I first had little kids, so I used to look at them and say, like a 1 month old. I say, don't be such a baby. That's how I used to, that was my joke. Not particularly funny, but meaning I think an answer, not the answer, but an answer to Andrew's observation, which is definitely legit, I think boils down to accountability. Meaning that in the law, um, we recognize that there's things that are done deliberately, there are things that are done recklessly, there are things that are totally beyond a person's control. I know what the weather is like gets like in Oregon, but if sometimes a person can be a very careful driver and the car, for whatever reason, skids for reasons totally beyond their control. And, they're probably in the history of the roads have been accidents that were, we would say, completely beyond a person's control. We talk about mental capacity. We talk about whether people have are drunk to be able to. What it boils down to is accountability for a person's decisions. If I don't have free will, then I say, God, I'm not accountable. You can't hold a child who does not have the ability to make a moral choice responsible for waking up mommy at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right. But if I wake up my wife at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'd like, can you put up some ravioli for me? That's just considered cruel. Right. So I think the idea is what? The idea is accountability. That if I have free will, then I'm accountable for my actions. And if I don't have free will, I'm not accountable for my actions. That's all these discussions that come up, interesting discussions. Like, let's say if you have juvenile delinquents and children, like, are they really responsible? And if so, at what age? And the whole notion of people pleading insanity, right? Sometimes we hear about some, psychotic killer, who knows what, and he's going to go in there and plead insanity, and he's going to be maybe given a lighter sentence. And that all pivots on the fact that, hey, we're going to hold this guy less morally accountable for his decisions because he has less free will, right? And on the flip side of things, when we do something positive also, my understanding is that when a dog licks your finger or whatever it happens to be, I think he just likes the salt. That's like, you think, oh, it's all loving and affection and Sparky is happy to see me. Like, I think he just likes the marinara sauce that's like on your hand, right? So like when you do something positive also, so that's also because I'm choosing to be generous. I'm choosing to be patient. I'm choosing to be. So I think it flips both ways, that if there is no free will, then there's really no accountability one way or the other. And that's the way I would approach that one. But it's a fair point.
Right. So then, and I guess I hear that getting tied to intention. But sometimes you have good intentions and bad things happen
Mm-hmm.
despite your intentions.
Right.
So again, how does that, how do you make up for bad things even if you only intended to do right?
Yeah, that's a challenging situation. Sometimes you walk into I guess human dynamics would be the easiest place to see it. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine, he and his wife have been trying for many years to have children. And there's a notion in Torah that a person who gives charity, that could be a particular merit for the couple, that they could merit to have children. So I suggested in a very nice, benign, friendly way to my friend, I said, look, I know, your wife has been trying for many years. Maybe maybe you'll give it a shot. You'll give some tzedakah. boy, did I get an email back from his wife. Rabbi, who are you in your, ivory righteous religious towers to tell us what to do? So now wait a second. All I wanted to do was help this guy find some spiritual merit to have kids. I wasn't looking to, kick sand in his wife's face. So much so that I had a question, Andrew, when it comes to around Yom Kippur time, and we're supposed to say sorry for anybody that we've offended. I wondered, maybe should call her up. Now, when I got on that phone, my intention was 95% to give this person some type of hopefulness. And exact opposite. This probably happened. It's probably everyone in this call, I'm sure, can easily think of situations they had only the best intentions in mind. They were going to offer somebody a piece of advice. Somebody's in a difficult financial situation, and you offer them advice about maybe, reaching out for a job. Who are you to micromanage in my life? And hey, look, I'm just trying to help, right? What do you want? So that is something which is legit. And again, unless you're God who knows a person's intentions, you won't really be able to kind of siphon that out, right? But I think it will boil down to a person's intentions, right? Fine.
Well, God knows. And so, but the problem, of course, is God knows people better than the people know themselves, right?
And God will factor. Let's give an instance. Let's say someone shows up in synagogue and you give them $1, and it's total bogus. The guy is. So you're still going to get credit for giving charity. I once went trying to look for a wedding on Avenue U in Brooklyn, and I had the wrong address because at Avenue O. When I wrote down the U, I didn't circle the O. So I drove back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I do believe that after 120 years, there's going to be credit in my account for having gone to that wedding. If you ever went to visit somebody in the hospital and you find out they were discharged, or you wanted to call somebody up and wish them good Shabbos, you didn't get through to them. So on the good side of the ledger, God will definitely keep a person's intentions in mind, right? The classic example is having kids. The Torah says one of the questions they're going to ask a person after 120 years was, did you have kids? Now, there are probably very fine people out there who tried, and maybe they never met their beshert, and maybe they met their beshert, they never had kids. So therefore what? They're going to flunk that part of the test? Absolutely not. Say, God, you know what? I did my best. I tried to find a nice Jewish girl to marry. We tried to have kids. Okay, you had different plans. There were great people, the Chazan Ish or Chanech Leibowitz. They were great Torah scholars that didn't have children for whatever reason. They're not going to be getting any demerits for that. Person is in this world to try, and that's all we can do. Okay, so that's what we want to say. Any other questions, comment, rebuttal over here?
May I request from Lori that she return my name on my Zoom to Bravo 120?
Oh, it will show up. This is only for this,
Oh, okay.
only for
Okay. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
So, look, I want to thank you all for listening, and God should help all of us to make the choices that's going to give God nachas. We don't have prophets in the world. Andrew can't call up Yirmiyahu, and Art can't call up Shmuel, and Jeff can't call up Yonah and say, what am I in this world to do? We just got to do the best we can with what we have. We got to remember that our choices matter. We got to remember that God is rooting for us. We got to remember that tshuva is always available. And I'll leave you with one last story. I was in Giant Stadium, and it was about 4th and 3, 4th and 2, and they brought out the punting unit. Okay, you're going to punt. And punting unit comes out. The punt's not so exciting. Everyone's going to get a beer or hot chocolate. And then you started to hear this kind of roar going through the stadium because they pulled the punting unit off and they were going to go for it. And before you knew it, You had 60,000 people on their feet rooting because they're going to go for it. When you try to make that decision, keep Shabbos, keep kosher, go to shul, put on tefillin, you got 60,000 angels in heaven, and they're all on their feet rooting for you because you're going to go for it. So we want to thank Mrs. Young for putting all together tonight's class. You guys should all have a wonderful week, and God should all be with you in making the right choices.
Okay.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right
Thank
now.
you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. Hold on, honey. Say goodbye to everybody.
Right.